So we're holding together all these to make the world what we display here. So we have a few books in the works, a tabletop game coming out soon, but as of right now, our Comic-Con exclusive deal is our mascots, big sort of souvenirs, takes another one. I was going to strap the dog.
Welcome back. You'll get sick of us, but this is only the second episode, so.
It's not our intent, but that being said, again, we're new at this, like a lot of people, so bear with us as we learn. Hopefully you learn with us, grow. It's all about the creative process.
Don't be alarmed if our account has no followers yet. Maybe you could be the first. Click this button.
Yeah.
I'm actually still working on the trademark, the watermark thing. Click this button to subscribe.
We are such novices.
Click this button to subscribe. There's no button there. How do you know where you're pointing?
We're gonna have to make one. Put it there.
He can design anything. So if you want a button, voila. What else have you designed, Eric? Talk to us about. We're gonna do a little show and tell, and it starts with Pago.
So the immediate question, we keep bringing up this main character, and it's kind of like, well, okay, who is Pago, and where does he come from? So first off, Pago is a mascot that I came up with several years ago. I was partners in another company. We were doing a lot of work with Lucasfilm, doing life-size, three-dimensional paperboard droids. That's a whole nother story that we'll do in another video. But
grab a cocktail for that one.
It's
Takes a while.
requires some adventures.
It's rich.
To be truly fun, truly an amazing journey with that. But out of that was this immediate business created around my three-dimensional designs and paperboard, and it was a big, huge success in so many ways as business, but also culturally. There are a lot of things went on, and we were encouraged to go to a trade show in Chicago to basically show off our creations at the insistence of Lucasfilm back then. And going to the show, you want to have something for people visiting your booth to walk away with, and I figured, why not a miniature version of what we've been doing with Star Wars droids? And so I figured, okay, a little miniature droid, but ours. Now, the name of that company was Advanced Graphics One back in the day, and AGO. And so, looking at the initials, created this character and going like, okay, name. Now this mascot needs a name. And sprung to me, P for paper, Pago, Pago. So that sounded good. It sounded like a little bit like Lego, Pago, things like that. Turned out later, when we did some research, it's also Spanish for to pay. Make of that what you will. Exactly. So that was the initial genesis of Pago several years ago. And that's sort of real world business kind of stuff. And then I put him aside, went on to do some other crazy projects over the years. And then I met a toy inventor who's wildly famous in the toy invention world by the name of Ruben Terzian. You can look that name up. He's in the Hall of Fame of toy inventors. And we were introduced through some business needs he had developing his packaging for a line of dolls he was creating with his wife. And he came to my studio for the first time, and he saw the Star Wars droids, was amazed by this and all this, and really was wanting to meet the guy who basically nailed the brief on his packaging designs when this big agency for Disney wasn't helping him get where he wanted to go. So he wanted to meet me. He comes into my studio, and he sees all this great stuff I've done with the entertainment industry, and then he zeroes in on this standalone little figurine that I haven't touched in years and said, what is that? Well, it was the first genesis of this guy, Pago. And he had different joints, and I had done this design in a matter of a week. We produced 2,500 of them for that trade show back in the day, all in a matter of a couple weeks. And it was just kind of a crazy thing, and really slammed it together. And a part of me is going like, that could be better. And I said, maybe I'll look at that again sometime. But the business we had done it for kind of moved on, kind of petered out. Long story about difficult partners and all that. But this toy inventor's in my studio now, years later, looking at this and saying, what is that? The toy maker inventor in him saw this character and said, why aren't you doing something with that? I said, maybe I should. Thank you. So I proceeded to start tinkering around with the joints, coming up with the idea of, well, if I'm really going to pursue this, shouldn't there be some kind of way of systematizing, making this something that anybody can put together, not just some crazy artist, number one. Number two, where does he come from? If I'm doing this, am I starting to work on some kind of backstory for him? So there's a lot of playing around some ideas where he might come from, a dumpster bin, it's like this heap of paper, all these kind of different ideas were going around. So eventually, that all, after a few years, I sat down and I ended up writing this story that was completely different from everything that I explored in a matter of 3 months. Just kind of came to me, and just this whole other world that's completely made out of paper, has nothing to do with the real world, except it does serve as metaphor. All the stories that take place serve metaphor for our own world. But in the process, I refined this down to the point that now the eyes are articulated, even the mouth, the opposable thumbs, every joint is articulated. And this now is something that can be animated. And I had an animator friend look at this and he said, you nailed it. And that toy inventor friend of mine also was like, you finally got there. And so that kind of encouraged me to keep going at it, figure out what the background story is. But then, now that I had this character, I said, wait a minute. It can't just be him, it has to be other characters. So I started fleshing out through the story, writing about other characters and envisioning how they would actually look. So I started sketching and then started prototyping other characters like Liaga. And then I could go through a list of Alita, Rinder, Wago, Diago, on and on those go. So we have now this whole cast of characters, but where do they all reside? Well, what does that world look like? And so now I'm thinking, okay, we have to build a world, but again, it has to be a system that anybody can come to. Once they learn it, they know how to put everything together. So I started, what's the fundamental building block? Building block, brick. Sort of kind of thinking, well, there's that Lego thing that everybody knows. But our world is paper, it's not plastic. Why paper? Because it's immediate. It's around us everywhere. It's inexpensive, and you can do endless things with it. I spent a career proving that to some people who are incredible visionaries unto themselves. And so I'm thinking, okay, get the fundamental building unit figured out. And there's a lot of back and forth tinkering over a year or so, getting that thing figured out. And that became what's now known as the Imago brick, which is every bit the foundation to connecting all the other modular parts, like column parts, floor parts, span parts, rail parts, roof parts. They all are connected to the Imago brick.
All these?
Yes.
Brick,
all.
brick, brick, brick,
Brick.
floor span, column. Now we have an arch.
So you see the evolution of tinkering with one character, which begat how does this repeat building other characters, so now they all can share the same joint system, same kinds of articulation, and so now these are fully fleshed out 3D things. And now I'm saying, okay, I got to really drill in and tell the story, not just write it, but I'm a graphic artist by background, as well as a draftsperson in architecture and my formal training, and so I have a lot of this technical drawing capability and skill developed since I was a kid. And I started playing around using the templates that I engineered and brought those into Adobe Illustrator graphic program and started tinkering and developing a illustrative style, mainly inspired by the original illustrations you find in the original books called the series The Wizard of Oz. And my drawing style has evolved into being something as an homage to that style, but in this unique aesthetic. And it is a world that is illustrated and written about characters and environments that physically exist. It's not some fanciful, mystical, quasi-magical kind of thing, but everything exists. If it's drawn, it's been physically built. If it's been written about, it's been physically built. So very tangible, very connectable, very much an experience that you can have in physical form as well as reading form. So that's been the evolution of Pago. Hence, now the world he lives in, the world of Imago, its architecture, its furniture, its devices, vehicles, forests, anything you can possibly imagine, truly anything, is built with this build system. And so Pago is the original inspiration. So he has a special place and is the main character. But we also have other main characters like Liaga. She's on her own adventures. And same with Scrap, and same with Wago, and same with Lita and Rinder, and a whole cast of characters that has been evolving and continues to evolve and will continue to add to the world and the series of stories, both in graphic book form for immediate illustrative look, and then illustrated novels, which is more reading, less illustrating.
What about that illustration behind us?
Well, that is some of the aesthetics. The cloud designs, the master imaginator you see there, and it as you can see, there's architectural references in the illustration that mimic what we see here in physical form with the quarter scale model. So, yeah, and it's very much interconnected. And we do use the illustrations to flesh out the tones, the gray values, and shading, dimension, and then we sometimes throw a splash of color in just because we like a splash of color on occasion. We're very, very white. But that's so there's a surface we talked about before that light can play onto. And for example, characters' emotions in our hope for animation efforts down the road as we grow, their emotions are played through light play on their surfaces. Say somebody's angry, a little bit of red light starts appearing on their face, or they're sad, there's a little bit of blueness going on in their face, or they're happy, there might be a little bit of yellow and green joy appearing.
I would love to see that.
Oh,
We will. Let's test this Imago brick theory. How do you tell a unit of measurement in the world of Imago?
Oh, so in the world of Imago, distance is measured by the length of an Imago brick. So that's the that is the distance mark.
Okay, well, what about time then?
So time is measured in the world of Imago by how long it takes to assemble an Imago brick.
Yeah, that's pretty rooted in the foundation of the world.
The brick is the foundational unit of all things.
The
All
brick.
No, and weight. You forgot to ask about weight.
How do you weigh things in the world of Imago?
Well, the principal weight unit is the weight of an Imago brick.
You guessed it. And I'm hoping we talk into the mic. I feel like you guys might have to listen in a little bit.
This is a nod to the flexibility and capability of iPhones, and eventually, as we grow, we'll grow to more professional equipment. And we can't wait to get some little fly-through drones to go around, zooming around all the architecture to give us some more inside details of what's going on inside these buildings. It's pretty spectacular, if I do say so myself.
And then animation.
I can't wait for the day when we can have a big team that we're working with to pursue those things. Although there's a hint, if you search somewhere along our website or social media, you'll see a little 17-second animation moment with this guy and his name.
That's enough sneak peeks for now.
Yes.
Visit theworldofimago.com to find the animation, and maybe you could hear something too, like a soundtrack.
We've had actually some music composed
Yeah.
for us by a gentleman by the name of Russell Silas. Was involved in this a few years back. And, it's very infectious. I catch myself humming it all the time. Yes.
Can they hear me hum? Maybe. But all right, that's enough teaser trailers for this one. Thank you guys for tuning in as we touched upon the origin of Pago and who he is, where he come from, where he's going. We can't wait to see and find out with you how far Pago can go. From the illustrative world to the physical medium, sky's the limit.
Yes.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.